Welcome back to the Jumpify Labs podcast, where we spotlight entrepreneurs who know how to adapt and thrive in today's busy landscape. Today, I'm joined by Ara Merakian, a veteran of nearly 2 decades in the solar industry, found a profitable niche by pivoting from installations to now solar service and repairs. His story is all about resilience, reinvention, and building residual income the smart way. Ara, welcome to the show.
How you doing, Jay?
Too blessed to be stressed, brother. How about yourself?
I'm good. Busy. We're getting really busy, which is good to see. A lot of things in solar, like for example, like the federal grant that is going away at the end of the year. It's made some people panic a bit, but it's a lot of businesses over the last few years have gone out of business, and part of the reason is that no one's really adapting with the times very much. The operating and maintenance industry that covers all of the solar in the U.S. We only have about 1% of companies that are doing that to handle the load. And obviously, as these systems are getting older, there's more and more need for these repairs and for taking care of them. And in doing that kind of work, you can develop a good client base. You're not going through a lot of administration, utility applications, which can change constantly. So where you might be applying, think you got a job, and then you apply and they say, no, you can't have solar. So, it's a lot of up and down. Whereas the maintenance is just growing incredibly. So I'm
Yeah.
really happy about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about all of that, what you're doing now, but I want to
Mm.
go flashback into when you first got into the industry. You've been in this industry for a while. You're definitely what someone would consider
Yeah,
one veterans. So
I was like 42 and I got in, it was around 2008 or before that, a little bit before that. And I was in construction all my life, project managing or general contractor, mill workshops, things like that. So I've always been in the industry of working on sites or working, with construction people, but at the same time also working with people that are maybe on Wall Street or high finance guys. And I've always the middleman in between them. And when solar came out, it was they had the best, incentives. It was fantastic for people. And then watching it grow over the years, being in New Jersey at the time, it was huge. And then it went on. I moved to Massachusetts for a few years doing larger commercial projects, 16 and 30-acre type properties that size. It also continued to expand, exponentially grow. But in recent times, the last couple of years, while prices of the goods are coming down, we're seeing some of the incentives going away, and that's making it less attractive for people. But it's still a good idea to have it. But my experience in the business has been those people that have longevity in it. You have to really believe in it. You got to stick with what you do, and you have to be honest and take the time to educate. Don't just collect the check. Sit them and explain to them what they can do to make sure that they take care of their system, or this is how it works. And if you don't understand, I'll show you. They, it's a 15-minute conversation is to actually care, and when you care, people give you a lot of work.
right.
So
Yeah, what is it exactly about the solar industry that's hooked you enough to be able to stick with it for this long?
one is constantly changing. So you start in the beginning where they just had 180-watt panels. So that's a panel. The same size panel today is about 400 watts, 440 watts. So, and along the way, the technologies have improved, methods of installing it have improved, people's technology of monitoring it on your computer at home. And the thought that every time you do a job that you are doing something good for the environment. Yes, you're going to save money at home on your electric bill, and that's great. But, when we started 18, 20 years ago, there wasn't that many systems around. There were some test models and different things, and there were some before that, but nothing substantial, not really substantial. Then when you do like a 4 megawatt, and you do an 8 megawatt job, and now of course jobs today 134 megawatts or gigawatts that are being done, and this is hundreds of acres of land. That these projects are being done, and that means that we're not relying on fossil fuel. And it's not all about global warming is the issue. Point is that you dig this stuff out of the ground instead of you just have the sun every day. It's free, and it's so much cleaner and better for the environment. And then people, which is rare, a lot of times rare in life, they're actually participating by putting solar on the roof. They're part of that group of people that are trying to make a difference. And as that becomes all collected, millions of homeowners, you have this impact on the whole, has had an impact on the whole economy. It just makes a lot more sense, to be doing that.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. If you can just harness the power of the sun, which is, as you said, free. I mean, why not? Why wouldn't anyone want to do that?
Right.
Okay, so you mentioned honesty. and you mentioned education. So through with our prior conversation before, I've come to learn that's a really valuable tool, even though it's not a tool. It's just you coming off as a genuine person, and also being in sales. How did that
Yes.
mindset towards education and being upfront and honest? How did that evolve over the years from the beginning until where you're at now?
I think for most of my life, I've been pretty straightforward with people. I was never the kind of I don't want to put any industry down, but any kind of sales guy that was pushy, you know, or feeding them some things that later on the salesman would say something, but then the operations or the project would come along and they wouldn't be delivering what they promised. And that always upset me. I always thought I tried to give people the right expectations without losing the job. But you're still selling it. But I'm much more operations than I am sales. But everybody's a salesman. You got to sell yourself every day when you say hello to somebody. You're doing how you interact with people as a form of sales. So and I think that if you just come out across as who you are, whether you're this rough, tough guy or you're just this very, light spoken, soft spoken guy, just be yourself. There's no magic. You can take all the courses in the world you want, but if if you're genuine and you are organized with what you're doing and you communicate, if you're running late for something, let the person know. If you're running early, let them know. Not everything has to be automated too, which is all these today. We see an enormous amount of texts that we get and emails that are constantly automated and sent to us, and we're in the middle of doing other things. And that's the fourth time they text me today, or fourth time. We're behind, yes, but we'll be back on time tomorrow, but and so on and so forth. Automation is a really good thing for some things, but there's keeping that personal touch is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. There is no such thing as a substitute for the human connection. That I mean, maybe we're going down that route. Who knows? With the advent of AI, it's maybe going to go down there. But right now, it's the genuine connection still worth its weight in gold.
I was just in a situation this week and it's one my master electrician that I've used. He's a nice guy, and he's helping me out with an issue I was having with some materials that I was stuck with. And then he's helping me out, and then he came back, and I got him some work, and we barely see each other. It's mostly on the phone. And then he just came back to me after he said, "Well, look, this guy's got to get 40 jobs done by the end of the year, 40 solar installations." And I said, "Okay, yeah." Because he knows I'm not gonna he knows I'll show up, but I'll do it, and if I can't do it, I'll tell him I can only do 20, or I can only, but, he knows he's referring me, and he knows he's safe by doing that. And there's a lot of good people in this industry. There's a lot of very successful businessmen and people, but, in my experience along the way, they've always been genuine, whether they're really tough or whether they're easygoing, but, you know
Yeah. Okay, let's take a little pivot here and let's talk about how the changes in the solar industry have kind of forced, well, I wouldn't say forced, but it's driven you to make a bit of a pivot and going towards the maintenance and the repair route. Talk a little bit about the changes in the industry and then what you've done to kind of maneuver alongside those changes.
Right. Over the years, a lot of larger companies were sort of controlling the market, leasing companies, and also larger suppliers. Companies like SunPower, not Sunrun, sorry, Sonova, Vision Solar. These were companies that were doing quite well, and they all went under. Um, and it was a test of times because they generally weren't managing their funds properly. And I sort of saw in the future, I thought, well, when you do a project, you need to put money aside if you offer a warranty so that you have money in the bank to service it if it's needed in the future. Some companies having thousands of houses that they own, and they don't have this slush fund. And eventually they run out of getting new clients, and it's almost like a timeshare, and they run out of money. So for me, I started looking at some of these larger commercial projects that we were involved in, and had the problems they were having. And they were saying, well, but we don't know anybody who does this. And this was several years ago. And then I said, well, I'll do it. And next thing you know, I started noticing this pattern where I didn't have to, it wasn't as much salesy. You are now helping people.
Right.
So you're getting paid, but you're actually at the end of it, they're like, oh my God, thank you so much. This whole summer we didn't have solar or something. So there's a gratification part of it, but also the ability to then sell, but selling, but offering sort of a solar maintenance contract, and particularly for commercial projects, so that these people have the assurity that somebody is looking at their system. Some of these people didn't notice anything wrong with their system for months, and that could have cost them thousands in losses. So by having that assurance that somebody is getting an email, in case there's a problem, I get sent an email. and they know that you can be trusted and that you're fair and you keep your pricing the same, that kind of thing. So, but I just see it growing, Jay, a lot because the longer I'm doing this, the busier I'm getting. It's, and I'm in the midst of sort of revamping my website, just about finished it, and I'm so I'm not even drawing from that yet. So but I see that for the future for it, and I think that even careers for people, guys that are techie but like being outside.
Hmm.
It doesn't mean you have to climb on a roof. You could be on the ground dealing with inverters and technical issues there, monitoring issues, Cat 5 issues, things like that. And it's a good paying job. Or it's just an alternative, for kids that want to be outside.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Now, the pivot that you've made has kind of led to more, let's say, residuals, more long-term type of contracts.
Right.
How do you how do you actually explain the value of having residual revenue to these other business owners who think of only getting the big jobs?
Well, I think that's what the thing is. It's a one-off thing too. It depends on the business you're in, but seasonally in December and January, it kind of slows down. In solar, it's a bit busy in December as they close out, but January and February is a bit slow. By having the residuals, you're covering off the slow months. You're also developing a long-term income for yourself. And there's a lot of industries that can offer. I mean, air conditioning does it. In furnaces, they have a yearly contracts with people. Now we have solar does it, and many other industries have it. But it's no reason that wait, I don't know who's watching, but there's no reason why you can't be able to do some sort of a monthly thing that's say $25 or $45 a month. Doesn't sound like much, but over the course of a year or two, you develop that into 75 or 100 people, let's just say, because you're a smaller operator. Now you make it $20,000, you know, uh, 20, let's say you get yourself up to $20,000 a year in these things over the next 2, 3 years. And that'll continue to exponentially grow. And you're really just sending the same kind of contract out. You're just changing a couple little things and you're sending it. Uh, so it's not, it's something that like, and some people, especially self-employed people, where you don't really have necessarily a retirement plan unless, besides your investments. So, that's a great way to go too. Uh, and of course, on the commercial, when I say those numbers in the solar perspective, homes are maybe $400 a year, and commercial jobs are anywhere from $2,000 to $8,000 a year, depending on the size of them, to oversee them. So, 4 years from now, I look to hopefully have $80,000 to $100,000 in service contracts. And at that point, you can step back a bit.
Definitely that residual part, the monthly recurring, that's how you actually build a business because you have at least a baseline instead of starting from zero every single month. At least you have that baseline and you could track that baseline either have going up or down, which is a big
Exactly. Talking about sort of like cash flow, cash flowing your business and saying that at least, well, I guaranteed I'm getting $2,000 this month, or I'm getting $8,000 this month, whatever
exactly.
it is. You got that coming in, and you go, okay, what am I going to do with that? Well, you can bank it, you can put it aside, and keep it in a nest egg to deal with the maintenance that you're going to have to do, or two, you could take that money and then expand your business a bit. Bring on someone full time and take that work off of yourself. Now you can focus just on the marketing, sales, and scheduling and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also just so much stress relief of having to
Yeah,
start from zero. You have something at least coming in, and then you can just keep adding more to it. Yes, we have to deal with things like churn and
hmm,
turnover, but as long as you add more versus the ones that go away, then you're
right.
actually doing a business.
And then for the guys you said earlier about the guys that want the big contract, it's particularly for those guys because the guy that wants to go for the big contract, you're not going to get him all the time. And yes, you might get the one big contract, but if you don't, at least this offers you sort of a buffer.
Yeah. Okay, so if you could give one piece of advice to a younger entrepreneur in either solar or any industry, what would that piece of advice be?
Be really good at Excel for one. No, I would say, obviously today have a proper website that's working for you. Get connected with anybody that's younger and trying to start their own business. Just start small, work your way up. Don't shoot for the stars in the first year. Realize that look, you just want to stay busy. And if you can keep yourself working 4 to 5 days a week, um, you don't have to shoot for the biggest dollar. So, going to service somebody at a house, or let's say in my case, we only charge $350 for a homeowner. We never able to figure it could be 450. But the question is At 450, how many people do I lose? But I can still do 3 of those calls in one day. So, maybe sometimes taking a little less, but doing a little more volume is better than thinking you're not established yet and you don't have a reputation yet. So you can't ask for that kind of money. You've got to start somewhere. You don't want to undercut the market either. But you've got to find that balance. And not to be shy to whatever you have to do to work and wear all the hats to start off with, in the business. And if you don't know it, YouTube it, learn it, whatever you got to do. But and of course it's ever changing. Again, using the portals of all the different YouTubes and TikTok and things like this in your business. That's the advantage of the young entrepreneur versus someone like myself. I gotta hire someone to do. So they use their technology and use the social media as best they can, but at the same token, make sure that you're delivering what they're promising, and push to get referrals, push to get Google reviews, and that sort of thing.
Okay, so where can people find out more about your company and the work you're doing?
You can go on my website, which is epcsolarnj.com. You can take a look at that. So, what was the second question?
Yeah, no, I was just asking where people can find your company and the work that
Yeah,
you're.
yeah. Just go on the go on the website and then epcsolarnj.com, and you can see some of the work that we do. Coming up in the next month or so. We're going to add we're doing some YouTube videos on site repairs, and also we're going to be doing a few other videos that are just to help homeowners. We have issues with squirrels that nest under solar panels. They do a lot of destruction, and it's dangerous to the homeowners. So ways the homeowner can check themselves without having to call anybody. And so we're going to come out with a series of these YouTube videos over the next couple of months,
So
and
what would
look
be
for
the
that.
yeah, what would be the goal with the social media build out, the channels to get more quick inquiries?
The goal that's part of it. But I think when you're posting videos on a website, you might get more likes, or so not likes, but get more viewers, people coming in. And but that's why I have a marketing website now. So, 'cause that's not my forte. I refer to YouTube for on certain things that we're doing. I've never seen these products, and we have to YouTube them to see what they're doing. And I thought, well, why don't I just start doing this as well, because I'm doing the repairs anyway. So, and it's just really, it's not just business, but it's just helping some people. Some people can't afford to pay somebody to come out and do the job. So, and some guys are naturally DUI guys, or DUI, whatever it is. Uh, and they can pick it up. And then there's also the counseling on there that say, don't touch this because it's a very high voltage.
Mhm.
So I'm warning people too not to mess around with this stuff.
Okay. All right, Ara, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you
Appreciate
too,
the
Jay.
wisdom. Yeah, appreciate the wisdom that you share with our
Yep.
audience. And if you like stories like this from other people on the up
Right.
and come people that are solving challenges in the business and continue to grow, make sure you subscribe and tune in for more. Take care. See you in
Thanks
the
so
next.
much, Jay. I appreciate that. All right. All right. Bye.